Hi everyone, thanks for listening to another episode of Dogman Encounters Radio. I'm Vic Cundiff and I'll be your host for the show. If you've had a Dogman encounter of your own and would like to speak with me whether in private or on the show, please go to dogmanencounters.com and submit a report. I'd love to hear from you. If you'd like to help support the show by becoming a premium member, please go to dogmanencounters.com/podcast to sign up. Memberships are only $2.99 a month. By becoming a premium member, you'll be able to download episodes onto your mobile device and listen to them commercial-free wherever you go. Also, if you'd like to check out the new Dogman Encounters t-shirt store, please go to dogmanencounters.com/store and take a look around. Buying a t-shirt or sweatshirt there is another great way to help support the show. As always, thanks for listening. Alright, let's bring on tonight's guest. On last week's show, Marvin shared several encounters with you he collected from eyewitnesses. Well, Marvin has even more encounters to share with you tonight, so I'm happy to welcome him back on. Marvin, thanks for coming back.
Thanks for having me, Vic.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome to come on anytime you've got more stories. Well, Marvin, you've got a lot of new encounters to share with us, so I want to get right into it. Please share those new encounters with us.
All right. Well, like I always say, and I said before, my friend Dave, we put a lot of the footwork in and helping me get these encounters. And a few days ago, he had put me in contact with this guy named Gary. He, a friend of his that lives in Mississippi. His friend Gary said that he was in Lincoln State Park in Wesson, Mississippi. Now, Gary is the type. He like the outdoors. He like to go walking, sightseeing. Sometimes he hunts, sometimes he fish. So one day he had went to this park doing his normal routine. He started walking, saw a couple of deers, and he said as he walked for about 10, 15 minutes, he said he had noticed he had seen two small red fox. So he had sat there when he had watched them for a while because he on a path and they up in the tree line. So he said as he was watching these two fox, he noticed that as they was walking, they kept looking back like they either heard something or they seen something. So he watching them, they still walking. So these little fox started to pick up their pace and started to move a little faster. So Gary said that he looked back to see what they was looking at or, if they seen anything, which he didn't see nothing. So he's still walking, but he's still watching those two fox. So he noticed that these two fox, as they was walking, it's like a little ravine that they had went down and they had went out of sight. So Gary, he continued to walk to the end of his path. Now, once Gary got to the end of the path where he was going to walk at, he turned around, started walking back the other way that he had came in. So Gary, he said he was walking. Then he said his phone had rung. He had answered the phone, and on the other line, it was his mother. His mother was asking him, Gary, was you going to make it over for dinner? And Gary said, yeah, Ma, I'll be over for dinner. I'm almost finishing my walk. And after I finish my walk, go home and wash, then I'll be over. So he hung up with her. Gary kept on walking. So after he walked for about 10, 15 minutes, he said that he had smelled something. Now, he said he never smelt this smell before. When he trying to figure out where it's coming from or what it was, then he said, okay, maybe it's a kill. Now, he's thinking back earlier when he saw the two foxes. He's thinking that maybe these two foxes had made a kill. So he started walking some more. Now, as he walking, Gary hears something. He hears something rubbling in the brush, like on the leaves and stuff. Now, what he hears something walking. But it wasn't like walking bipedal. It was like walking on quads, like on all fours. So Gary said, as he walking, he looks to his right, which would be on the right side now because coming in, it was on his left. So he looked to his right, and up in the tree line, he said he sees something walking. So he looks. He thinking that it's a wolf or something. He said, no, it's not a wolf because it's too big. This thing don't see Gary. It's still walking, but it's walking on quads. It's walking on all fours. So as this thing's still walking, Gary's walking down the path, going to the same way that he came in. He's going out. So Gary looked up there again. This thing stopped. Now, when this thing stopped, it started sniffing the air. He said it turned his head to one side, turned it to the other side, and it started sniffing the air. This thing did not see Gary yet. So Gary focused in on this thing to see what it was. He said, while this thing was down on all fours, Gary said this thing was huge. He said this was big. So now he know it wasn't no wolf or nothing like that. He said the head on this thing was gigantic. He said this thing had a big head. It was wide. He said, but the way this thing was built with the front part was real bulky, like real stocky. He said the ears were straight up on this thing. He said it had a long snout. He said he could see that the back end go down. He said this thing did have a tail. He said that this thing was sniffing up in the air. He said the thing stopped and he started to walk again. So as this thing is walking again, Gary trying to pick up the pace because Gary trying to get out the entrance to the park or where he came in at. So as this thing walking, he said it was some trees that was broken down, like some debris, but these was like some nice sized trees. It looked like he said somebody put them together and stacked them like on each other, like going across. So the things get to these things where these logs was, where these big trees was. So he said when this thing got right there where the tree was, he said this thing reached up while it was down on all fours and it put his hands on this tree or this log. He said then this thing did something he never seen, but only he seen this on TV. He said this thing started to stand. He said when this thing stood up, it made some kind of noise, like a loud pop noise. He heard the noise and everything. Said this thing stretched one leg on the left side, then on the other side, it stretched the other leg. He said, then this thing, it stood up. Now, it stood up on 2 feet. Now, God can see this thing real good. He said this thing had some wide shoulders. He said the width on this thing had to be 3.5 to 4 feet wide. He said this thing was big. Now, Guy stands about 6'6", and he know from the distance where he at and where this thing was at, he said this thing had to be 8.5 to 9 feet tall. He said this thing was humongous. So Guy is still walking. This thing still doesn't see Guy yet. So when this thing gets up on his 2 feet, he sniffs the air again. He said when he sniffed this air again, this cryptid turned his head to the right, looked over in that direction. This thing jumped over the trees that was in a tree line that was laid out. This thing jumped over the tree. He said this thing jumped like it had springs or some rocket boots or something. He said because this thing jumped far. This thing jumped, and when it landed, he said this thing ran to the right, up through the tree line. And that's when he lost sight of him. So Gary gets to the end of the class. He leaves. Gary go home, washes up. He goes over his mother's house. So he sit down. We talking to his mom. He said, Mom, I don't think I'm going to go for my walks no more. You know, she was asking him, why, baby, why? He said, I just don't want to talk about it right now. So he said, maybe one day I'll open up and I'll tell you about it. He said, because if I tell you, I don't want you to look at me like I'm crazy or nothing. So, like I said, after I got this encounter from Gary, he said he ain't been back in the woods since, even for a walk. And he said this happened in 2003. So now I'm going to go on to my next encounter. Now, this encounter happened in Gastonia. And it happened down in the South in the Carolinas. And the lady name that I'm going to use because, like I said, I don't like using these people real names because they ask me not to. And I'm going to call her Miss B. Now, Miss B, she's the type that likes to go out and have fun. So this particular day, Miss B went with some more friends. They went out to go play bingo. So while they out playing bingo, they sitting there talking. When they was asking Miss B, Miss B, what you gonna do when you leave here? Miss B said, I'm gonna just go ahead and go in the house because I'm not trying to hang out too late. So as the bingo game was over, Miss B leaves. So as she go out and get in her car, Miss B get a call from one of her friends. Now, this friend didn't go with them. So she talking to Miss B on the phone, and she asked her, is you still coming past the house when you finish doing what you're doing? And Miss B did say she was going home. She said, but she told her, she said, yeah, after I finish doing what I'm doing, I'll be past your house to see you. So Miss B hang up and she leave. So she get up in the car and she drive when she going to a destination. So as Miss B driving, she driving on the back road, this road that she always takes. But just this particular day, going down this road, Miss B don't make the turn that she usually takes. Miss B takes another route and goes another way, a way that she never went before. So she driving, listening to the music. The music down real low. Now, as Miss B driving, she said as she was coming around this curve and then it turned back into a straightaway, she said about 30 feet in front of her, she seen something run across. It went from right to left on the other side of the tree line. So she said she stopped, pushed on her brakes, but the car's still on and it's still running. So she's sitting there. So now her phone rings again. Now when the phone rings again, it's her friend. And her friend asks her, is you on your way? Is you almost here? And Miss B said, yes, I'm almost there. She said, I just seen something run out in front of the road down from me. She said, but I don't know what it was. So her friend said, it might have been a deer or something like that. She said, okay, yeah, maybe you're right. So Miss B, she hangs up on the phone. So now Miss B sitting there, she contemplating because she don't know what this thing is. So after sitting there for about 5 minutes, Miss B said she don't know what it was. She said this thing stepped out of the tree line and stepped in the middle of the road, bipedal, on 2 feet. She said she looked at this thing. She said this thing eyes was orange. That's the color she gave me. That's the color she described this thing eyes was. She said this thing was bipedal, standing up on 2 feet. She said it looked like a giant dove standing. She said it had a huge head. The ears were sticking straight up on it. The arms was hanging down in front of this thing. She said, but as this thing was standing up, it had like a slope to it, like it was leaning forward, like it didn't stand straight up. She said this thing did have canine legs. You could see all that. She said she didn't know if this thing had a tail or not. She said, but now she looking at this creature, and this creature is looking at her. So she said she started flicking a light. So this thing started to growl. So when this thing growled, she put her car in reverse. Now, Miss B starts backing this car up. She starts backing it up slow, though, while it's in reverse. And she said when she backed this car slow in reverse, going backwards, still got her eyes on this creature and still got her eyes on the road, back and forth. So Miss B said this thing started to walk towards her car. So as this thing walking towards her car, because this thing taking big strides, 4 to 5 feet strides, she said. This thing was taking big strides. So as she backing up, she said she started beeping her horn, beep, 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 beep. She kept beeping her horn, beep, 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 beep. So as she beeping her horn, she said this thing stopped. So she's still going backwards, slow, real slow though. And as this thing stopped, it's still looking at her. It's like this thing is mad now. She said she could see this thing chest inhaling out. She could just see the breath this thing was taking, inhaling out, like it was getting bigger and bigger each breath that this thing took. She said the legs on this thing was massive. She said this thing was something you would see in a horror movie. So as she's sitting there, still going backwards, watching this thing, she said this thing looks over to the right side where this thing came from. So she said when this thing looked over to the right side of where this thing came from, she said her passenger window was down a little bit. She said when this thing looked over to the right side where it came from, she said she could hear something over in the trees like it was making noise. She don't know what it was because she didn't see it. She said this thing just looked over to the right of it, took one jump, and jumped into the tree line. She said she put her car in reverse, turned it around, went back the other way, and took the route that she usually takes. She didn't go back down that road no more. So she went past her friend's house, sat down. She was hysterical. So she was telling her friend, I don't think there was a deer that ran across the road tonight. So she was asking her, well, what was it? What could it be? She said, I don't know what it was, but it wasn't no deer. It wasn't no bear. It wasn't nothing like that. She said, but I don't want to see this thing again. She kept asking her over and over, well, what was it? You going to tell me? You going to tell me? She said, now, if I tell you, don't think I'm crazy. She said, you know, I wouldn't think you crazy. He said, because I know you're a church-going woman. So she told her, she said, I saw a werewolf or Doug standing up on 2 feet or something. So she smirked a little bit, her friend, like she was joking. And she looked at the face and she knew that she was served. And she said, I'm sorry, I wasn't laughing at you. She said, I believe you. I know you saw something tonight. I wasn't there with you when you saw it, but I know you saw something. So, Miss B, that's her story. And like I said, when I talked to her, she said she still has little nightmares here and there of seeing this creature, something that she never saw before. I told her, you know, anytime she needs somebody to talk to, she could call me. My phone is always available and it's always on. So that's our encounter right there. Now, my next encounter, but before I start, I did a encounter on this before, and the lady who I'm getting ready to talk about now said that she had a friend that knew the person who I did this encounter on. Now, this lady name that I'm going to use, because I'm not going to use her real name, I'm going to use Rachel. Now, she said she had an encounter of her own after she found out and heard about the encounter that I told on Dogman Encounters. Now, this lady's name is Rachel. Now, one weekend, Rachel said she was home with her 2 kids. She got a 5-year-old and she got a newborn, which was about 9 or 10 months at the time. So Rachel said she was home on the weekend, sitting there, just watching movies. You know, she had just made some popcorn and stuff. So she's sitting there watching movies. So as she watching movies, Rachel said she can hear something like it's tapping on the window. Tap, 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 tap. But when she look at the window, she don't see anything. So she don't pay no attention and she continue to watch TV. So Rachel hears this sound again. Tap, 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 tap. It's knocking on the window again. She looks again. Still doesn't see nothing. So she go back to watching TV again. So after about 10 minutes pass, tap, 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 it knocks again. So she said, I know I'm not hearing things. I know I hear something knocking on this window, but every time she looks over at this window, she doesn't see anything. So she don't pay no attention again. She's still watching TV. So now her 5-year-old gets up off the floor, walks over to this love seat that they have on the left side of their living room, not too far from the big window. Now, When a 5-year-old goes over there to where the love seat is, it just stand there and stares out at the window. So Rachel don't pay no attention at first. She's still watching TV. But she said she can hear her baby saying, "Mommy, Mommy, Dougie, Dougie, Mommy, Dougie, 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 Mommy." And she said, "Baby, okay, yeah, Dougie, Dougie." Don't pay no attention. So she go back to watching TV again. So her 5-year-old said again. This time, the 5-year-old points his finger towards the window. "Mommy, Mommy, Dougie, Dougie, Dougie." So Rachel says she gets up, walk over there to where the 5-year-old, and she looked. She said when she looked, she like to fell out of what she saw. She said the first thing she noticed was them glowing eyes. These glowing yellow eyes. She said they was big. She said these eyes was huge. She said this thing had his nose pressed up to the glass of her window. Every time it would breathe, it would fog up the glass. She said this thing then took what she said was a hand, reached up, put it on the glass, and was tapping its nails on the glass. Pat, 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 pat. So she looking at this thing. She grabs her baby. She picks it up. Start walking backwards. Still looking at this thing. She said this thing had some big hands. She said the other hand was hanging down. She said she could see the chest on this thing. She said this thing looked like it had shoulders. She said she could see part of the legs. She said she didn't see the feet. But she said as she backing up towards where this little hallway at, where you go down towards the bedroom. And on the side right there, she can hit the light. So she said when she hit the light, she glanced at this thing. Now she see this thing because the light done caught it. She said when she looked out there, she said this thing looked like it was a dirty brown color. That's the color she said this thing had. She said this thing was tall. She said this thing was humongous. It was huge. She said, and when it was looking in this window, it was like it slumped over. This how tall this thing was to even look in the window, and her window is tall, she said. So she said when she looking at this thing, she could see all that. She said this thing had chest like a bodybuilder. She said she could see the little ripples where the stomach area at. She said this thing was a male. She said she did see the male genitalia on it. She said, so that's how she know it was a male. She said, now as she looking at this thing takes his nose off the glass of the window, and it growled at her, like a medium growl. She said this was kind of loud. She said then this thing turned around and ran. It ran up to where the tree line was at. She said when this thing got up in the tree line, it must have stopped. She said because it turned around, and she said she could still see them eyes, and they were still glowing. She said then this thing let out a howl that it shook her soul. She said there's no houses near her. She don't have no neighbors. She said so when this thing howled, she said it was loud because it was so loud. She said that it woke up her little 9-month-old baby. And this baby, she said her baby, when it woke up, this baby woke up crying. So she said she ran in there, grabbed her baby, picked her baby up. And when she went back to the window and she looked, she said she didn't see it. Those eyes was gone. So she said about a month later, she was in the house. She went in to fix her 5-year-old something to eat. Now, she in the kitchen, she said her 5-year-old comes out of his room, goes over, and he asked, Mommy, what you doing? She said, I'm going to fix you something to eat, baby. So she go back to fixing his food. So she said the 5-year-old goes over and stands near the love seat. She said when the 5-year-old go over there and stand by the love seat, it goes in that same position like it was the last month, looking out the window. She said that her baby just stared out the window, didn't say nothing, just looked. Then it did the same thing it did the last time. It pointed. She said she dropped what she was doing, ran in there. She said, but when she got in there to the 5-year-old and looked at the window, she didn't see nothing. What was it that 5-year-old saw? Was it that same creature that they saw a month earlier? She said that's what she thinks. She said because her baby not going to just go over there and stand and point like that. She said so after these encounters and hearing those howls, she said she can't do nothing but move. She said because she's scared for her family. She said if this thing wanted to, this thing could have came straight through the glass and killed all of them. And nobody would have knew because she don't have no neighbors. Nobody would have knew. And when I talked to this lady, I said, well, how's the 5-year-old doing? She said, he's doing okay. And she said that one day when she was sitting down talking to him, she said the 5-year-old said, Mommy, Dougie coming back, Mommy, Dougie coming back. So she looked at her 5-year-old. She said when he said that, she looked at her 5-year-old. She said this brought tears to her eyes because she don't know if she been in her room and he been in the front room, if he saw this thing on numerous occasions. Could this thing try to grab him while she was in the room or the bathroom or doing something else? So she really scared for her family now. So I had not finished talking to her. She said that most likely she gonna up and leave because she thinks that her 5-year-old has seen this cryptid on more than those occasions. So I told her anytime she want to talk, she could call me. I'm always available. I'm always be there. So that's her encounter. Now, this other encounter comes out of the Shenandoah National Park. And this guy, I'm not going to use his real name. This guy name that I'm going to use on here, I'm going to just call him Larry. So Larry said that he was at this park and he was driving down Route 211. He said as he was riding, he seen farms and stuff like that, cows. And he said from where he was at, where the cows and stuff at, he said you could see the Blue Ridge Mountains in the background, further over in the distance. He said you could see all that. So as he driving, he parks. So he takes one of these trails. So he took this trail, and this trail that he took, he said it took him to this place where it's a cabin out there, and this cabin is called Corbin Cabin. Now, this place or this site where this cabin is at, because it's not occupied now because it's been there so long, he said not far from there, it's like a cemetery. And on the cemetery, you know, it's probably about 25, 30, maybe 40 people that was buried on this site. You can't see the tall tombstones no more because they've been pushed over and the tombstone is down in the ground. It's a lot of grass and debris over on them and leaves. So you can't see them no more. So he said he walking around not too far from where the cemetery at. He said it's like a little small stream. So he said, you know, I'm going to go ahead and walk down here near this stream. So he said as he walking down there near the stream, he said he just happened to look behind him because he heard a noise. And when he looked behind him, he said he seen a couple of dead. But the dead was going in the opposite direction, trotting. So he turns around and don't pay no attention. So he goes down by the stream, picks up a couple of rocks, throw them in the water, you know what I mean? Just like he was a little kid again. So he said as he was walking back up, because he got to go over there by the graveyard, by the cabin and stuff like that. As he was walking up there, he said that he heard a noise over there near the cabin. This cabin, you can go in it and stuff like that. It ain't like it got locks and doors and stuff in it. So you can go in this cabin. So he said he heard a noise over there near the cabin. So he's still walking, but the leaves making noise because, like I said, it was like kind of warm outside and the leaves was kind of crunchy, so they making noise as he walked. So as he walking, he heard noise in the cabin, like scratching noise. It's like something scratching on the wood or something. Scratch, scratch, scratch. He can hear something scratching. So he's still walking. He walking like on a parallel angle, like to go around the opposite side of the way so he can get this car and leave. He said, so as he walked in the parallel way, he just so happened to look, it's like it's a window over that way, he just happened to look. He said he sees something dart past the window. So as this thing darted past this window, it went out from another side or something like that, he said, because he only caught a glance. So he walking parallel, like going around, like I told you, the opposite side of the house. So as he walking, he say he ain't the only one making footsteps in the woods now. He can hear something else walking. And this something else is bipedal. It's walking on 2 feet. He got to go all the way around because this thing not going to parallel with him because it's going the opposite way, like it's coming around the other way, the way that he came in and going out. So as he going around, he's trying to look to see what it was or what he could see. He say he don't hear no animals, no insects, no birds, no squirrels, rustling in the leaves. He don't hear none of that. So as he walking around to go parallel, to go the opposite side of the way so he can go out to get back to the trail to get back to his car, he said he sees something, but he see the back of this thing. Now, when he said he see the back of this thing, he said he see a tail on this thing. He know it ain't a dove. He know it ain't a bear. He know it ain't a wolf. He know it ain't a fox. He know it ain't a coyote. He said, because this thing is standing bipedal. So he walks around some more. This thing is walking bipedal, but it's walking in the direction he had came down. That's the direction that it's walking now, in the direction that he had came down. When he see this thing, he see the back of this thing. He said the thing back was wide. He said he could see the ears sticking up on this thing. He see the back of his head. He said this thing did have a mane, like the lions have that hair around their head or neck or whatever. He said he did see that. He said this thing's arms was long. And he could see hands. Not paws, but hands with fingers, with nails on the tip of it. This thing still don't see him. Why? He say he don't even know. But he's not walking no more. He stopped and he's staring at this thing. This creature is still walking in the direction where he was going down. It's walking in that direction. And he said this thing was taking some huge steps as this thing was walking. It's just walking. He said it's like he can feel the ground shake when this thing was walking. He said this thing had to be heavy because it was wide. He said he don't know what this thing was. He said, but he knew this thing was bipedal, standing up on 2 feet. He said, now as this thing walking, it gets up to where the trees at. Because down there by the cabin and the little graveyard, a lot of that stuff is cut out because of the cabin and the graveyard. So a lot of those trees was cut out and cut down. This thing is walking up and it's getting to where the trees start at. So when they get up there to where the trees start at, we still can see this thing. But this thing still don't see him. So this thing stopped. So this thing took his left arm. That's what he called it, an arm, because that's what he said it looked like. Put his hand because that's what he said this thing had was hand. Put his hand up on the tree. Said when he put his hand up on the tree, said it took his nail, ran it down like the tree bark of the tree. Said he can hear the sound of that. He said that sound did something to him, like it made a jerk or something like that. He didn't like the sound of it. He said then this thing dropped down on all fours. When he got down on all fours, said this thing was still big and huge. They said this thing was just wide. So when this thing got down on all fours, he said now, the way this thing looked when it was down on all fours, it didn't look like a normal animal would look, he said. It didn't have like a straight, it might have a little curvature like where the back go at. He said this thing was big up top, and as it went back, it just started sloping down. Like the back end where the tail was at, it was just small. He said this thing started out walking slow on quads on all four. He said then this thing just started running. He said this thing he never seen nothing move that fast in his life. He said so after this thing left, continued on around his path, got on in his car, proceeded to leave on out the park, and he left. And like I said, when he talked to Dave, he told Dave, I never doubt you again. When you was trying to tell me about these dove things, these cryptids, said, I never doubt you again. He said, they real. He said, now, I've seen Bigfoot before. I know they real. He said, but this thing, what I saw, he said, this thing shouldn't exist. I don't know what it is. If they've been here a long time, if they experiment, if they part alien or whatever, I don't know what it is. So, like I said, when Dave put me on with him, man, like I said, I tip my hat to this man. He does a great job in lining these people up, getting me these encounters. And when they tell me their encounter, I always ask them, man, I say, are you sure, 100% sure about what you saw? And these people tell me, they say, for one thing, I ain't getting nothing out of it. I don't have no reason to lie. I don't care if a person believe me or not. I know what I saw, and I'm sticking by it. Now he know that these things exist. So I guess he gonna change his whole routine up now because, like I said, they out here and they out here to stay. So we need to be mindful and vigilant about letting people know that these things really do exist. So that was his encounter right there. I got one more encounter, and this encounter came out of Virginia too. Not going to say what part. When I talked to this guy, he asked me not to. He come from a good family. He got a good upbringing background. So here go his encounter. This guy, whose name I'm going to use, I'll call him Steve. Steve said he was in Virginia one time, and he was out there, decided to go fishing. Packed up everything, went out, started to fish. So he said, as he down there and he's fishing, because he ain't got a boat, he had that right there with the water at, throw the reel in, I see what he can catch, so throw the reel in. Where he at fishing, it's a nice sized lake, but he's still surrounded by nothing but trees. It ain't nothing but trees around him. Now, when he going in, Steve say he can hear everything. He hear all the wildlife. He hear everything. Everything chirps, bugs, he hear everything. So, cast his line and, he started to fish. So, after about 5 minutes, caught something on the line. He reels it in, take the fish, put it in the cooler, throw the line back out again. After about another 10, 15 minutes, catches another one, reels it in, take it, puts it in the cooler. So, as he putting on the bait on the hook the third time, notice he can hear something on the opposite side of this lake. Now, on the other side of this lake, say he hears some noise up in the tree line, like sticks breaking and stuff like that, leaves crackling and making noise like that. You can still go around this whole little lake to get around on the other side, on either side. So the distance to walk from the opposite side that he was on to the other side. Wouldn't take that long to get over to that side. So as he putting the bait on the hook, he still hear the noise. Now when he hear the noise this time, cause just over there where he looking at, you can see a lot of brush. Look over there at the brush, he noticed that he can see a silhouette of something moving through the brush. He don't know what it is. He on the other side. And this thing is over there. But he can see like a silhouette just walking through the brush in the tree line. He can hear it. And he knows there's something over there. So, put the bait on his hook. Throw it back in. Throw it in again. After a few, catch another fish. Reels it in. Takes it off the hook. Puts it in the bucket. Hear this noise again. Hear a stick break again. Crack, pop. Hear it break again. So now, when he look over in that direction over there with a brush at, because, you know, the brush kind of tall, but then you got the wood line there, and then you got the trees over there. Look over there again. Then when he look over there again, this time, he sees something dark. Now he know this silhouette that he seen a few minutes ago. He knows it's a dark figure. So when he look over there and he see this silhouette and he see this dark figure, he said he could see something that looked like two ears. He said, but when he looked and he focused in, he noticed that these ears, they look like they moving. He said from what he could see, he looked like these ears was moving, like they was twitching. So as he focusing in and still looking over there, he said this thing kind of like takes his nose and head and is pushing through the brush, looking in the direction to where he at. He said, so when he seen that, he said he dropped his rod, because now he don't know what this thing is. He is packing. You have a 357 on him. He take the snap off his holster, because now he ready, because he don't know what this thing is. He said, so when it sticks his head through in his nose, he said he guessed when it did that, it was slipping. Steve said now he curious. Steve, I don't know what was in his mind. He said he started walking to the right, up. Now, if you walk up to the right, he ain't that many feet where you make the bend at to go around to try to get on the other side of this lake. So as he goes up there and he makes the turn, he said that's when he heard this sound, like a pop sound. And he looked over there in a direction. He said when he heard that sound, he said now he could see what this thing was sticking his head through the brush. He said this thing stood up. When it stood up, he started backing up to around where he dropped his rod at, his cooler, his tackle box and all that was at. He's on his way back around there walking backwards. This thing stood up, walks through the foliage, walks through the brush, and stands right there at the edge of the water. He could see this thing now. He know this thing should only be seen on TV. He said this thing looked like a werewolf. He said he looked at this thing, man, and this thing looked at him. It's like they locked eyes. He said that for a moment, it felt like he couldn't move. He said just for that split second, it felt like he couldn't move. He said then this thing started to walk. He said this thing walking up the other end to go around over to that side. He said when this thing started to do that, he said he snapped out of it. Now he watching this thing walk. He pulls his gun out. Boom! Warning shot in the air. Said this thing looked over at him, kind of turned his head. He's like, you know how somebody will look at you? He said, they tilt their head to the side. That this thing, it stopped and it did that. He said this thing had a head like a black wolf. Because he said this thing was black as tar. Said this thing had a head like a wolf. He said it had a snout like a Dogman pigeon or German Shepherd. Had a snout like that. Said it was kind of thick. He said this thing had shoulders. He said that's the only thing he can say. They look like shoulders to him. Said that upper part of his body was like this thing was working out. He said because this thing was cut up. Said it had long arms, which came down to what looked like to him was hand. And he said he could see the claws and all that. He said it had the bent back legs, the hocks and all that with the canine feet. He said this thing did have a tail. He said, but it wasn't a long tail, but he said it was like a nice size bushy tail. It did have one. He said, so as this thing tilted his head and he looked over there to him, he said, after he let off that shot, he said this thing proceeded to continue walking, to cut that bend, to come around, still going over to the side where he at. So in his mind, he said he really don't want to shoot this creature because he don't know what these bullets going to do to him. He don't know if this thing going to stop it or not. He said, but if this thing keep coming, he ain't got no choice but to unload his gun on him. So this thing's still walking. Says he points his gun over there towards the creature. He ain't no marksman or nothing. He said, but he going to shoot over there at it. And if he hit him, he just hit him. He says he shoots over there at it. Boom, boom. He said, but when he shoots over there at it, bullets hit the dirt. So you can hear it hit the dirt. Said this creature is stopped. Said when this creature stopped, he said it's like this creature got a mind like us. Said when this creature stopped, it looked down. It looked down where the dirt shot up after the bullets hit it. This thing looked down. It's intelligent. Like it knew something had hit right there. He said this thing looked down. He still got that gun pointed. So the little trail that he came down in, he started walking sideways, like up in that trail to go out. He's still watching this creature. He's still watching this cryptid. He said because this thing, it just looked like something out of a horror movie. He said this thing shouldn't be here. They shouldn't be in the woods. Should nobody have to run into nothing like this? And he said, what if he didn't have his gun on him and this thing would have made it around there and killed him? Wouldn't nobody would have knew? He just would have been dead. So he said he walking sideways out the path that he came in. He said this thing let out this howl, man. He said it sounded like a lion or something. He said this thing was loud. Said he could feel it in his chest when it let it out. Said he could feel it in his chest. So he continued to keep on walking sideways. He said when this thing let out that howl at the top part of where this creature was at, it turned and started going up in that tree line. Steve is on the other side, walking sideways through that path that he came down. Now, when this creature goes up in that tree line, it bears off to the right. Now, the right would take him around and over in the direction of where Steve is going at. So Steve stopped. He's watching this creature. He's watching this cryptid. He's watching this wolfman or whatever you want to call it, because he don't know what it is. He watching this thing. This thing is walking, and it's walking diagonal, like it's coming on a slant, like it's coming towards the way where Steve was at. So as it's walking that way, Steve doesn't stop. He's watching this thing. This thing is walking on a parallel. It's keep walking. Boom, boom. He can hear the steps. That's how I know this thing is heavy. That's how I know this thing had to weigh a lot of pounds. he hit a step and this thing's walking on a parallel. So as it's walking on the parallel, it's like another little path to the left of it. Look like people done probably rode bikes down this little trail or something. This cryptid bears off on that trail right there to the left. Start walking up that trail, which looked like somebody was riding bikes down there to make a path. Started walking up that trail right there. Steve's still in that same spot. He didn't move. He watching this creature because it's only about 35, 40, no more than 50 feet from him. He watching this creature. He still can see it. Even though it's still going through the trees and the tree lines, he still can see this creature. So this creature's still walking. He's saying as this thing walking, he can still hear this thing growling. Like it was pissed, like it was mad. So when he see this creature walking, now it's going the opposite way, Steve continued to go up that path. He only about 10, 15 minutes in to where he got to get back to his ride or whatever and just go and get out of there. As he go, get in his vehicle, turn it around and goes out. As he's going out, he get back on the main road. And as he driving, to the left of him would be that same tree line. To the left of him, out the corner of his eye, he see this thing. He see this same black dark creature running through the tree line. He had trees breaking and snapping and all that, running through the tree line, parallel, straight, just like he ride, because he on a straightaway, running through the tree line, out the corner of his eye. He watching this thing, and this thing running. It's like it's keeping up with him. He don't know how, because how can you run through the woods and move out the way of this tree and move out of this tree? He said this thing wasn't moving none. He was just knocking stuff over. And he said it was keeping up with his car. And he said he was doing like 45, 50 miles an hour. But he was going. He said as he was riding, after about 300 yards or something like that, he said the tree line broke. Then it gets into this field. When the field starts on the other side of where the tree line going to start back up at, it bears off and turns to the right. So this thing is running across the field, still keeping up with him, still riding. Said, but as he getting on the other side to where the tree line starts, he started to bear off to the right. That's when he can see this cryptid still out the corner of his eye, like it's slowing down and stop. And Steve said he turned off, bad on around to the right, went home. And, like I said, when I talked to him and I asked him, have you ever believed in these things or Bigfoot, Dogman and stuff like that? He said, yeah, I heard of Bigfoot and stuff like that. And I had seen Bigfoot when I was a kid. He said, but, I have heard about these cryptids, these Dogman things. He said, but to see one personally, that's when you know something like that exists. That's when you know something out there really is real. You know what I mean? So I asked him, did he tell anybody in his family about his sighting or making them aware about what's in these woods out here? And you got to be careful. I mean, just let your family know. Just put them on point. He said, he haven't yet. He said, but one day he going to really sit his family down and tell them about his encounter and the things that he's seen. Like I told him, anytime you want to talk, call my phone, and it's always on, and I'm always answer. And that's his encounter right there. I do have more encounters, but I don't want to go over the time limit on here, because like I said, when I first started and I first came on Dogman Encounters, all I did was collect encounters and sites. That's all I did. And when I write down and get all the encounters, I have them. So when I do come on the show, but I have plenty and I have more encounters, but, those are my encounters for this week.
It's always great to have you on, Marvin. And remember, you're always welcome here. If you collect enough new encounters to come back on and do another show in the future, all you've got to do is let me know and we'll make it happen. But having said that, thanks again so much. Have a great night.
You too, Vic. Bye.
Bye. If you've had a Dogman encounter of your own and would like to speak with me, whether in private or on the show, please go to dogmanencounters.com and submit a report. I'd love to hear from you.